rise for the jury.
Welcome back, folks. Please be seated. And Mr. Trustee, whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Joe. How you doing?
I think I'm a little bit better.
You got to speak into the microphone.
Right. So I think I'm a little bit better. Yeah.
Let's do this. Right. There we go.
Okay. Let's try that. Can you
Now,
all hear me now? Okay.
before the break, I think.
Hang on a second, Mr. Trustee.
Can you all hear me now? Okay.
Can you hear okay, folks? And I was going to ask the same thing. Okay.
I'm guessing probably
Do me a
not.
favor and raise your hands if and when you can't hear, because it's really hard to tell whether people can hear in the particular space where they're seated. So let me know, okay?
Yeah, I'm.
Trustee, go ahead, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're okay. Let's pick up where we left off. We're going to follow up on a few things that came up this morning, but I want to pick up right where we left off, which
Okay.
was where, I think at this point you were still living in California, right?
Yeah.
You had, and one of the people you said was a friend of yours was David Cote.
Yes.
Tell us about David Cote. Who is he, and tell us about your relationship.
He was he was the apartment manager's son. The context that he had come up in was that he had a father, and father, F-A-T-H-E-R. Father, dad.
Okay, I think she.
Oh, okay, I didn't.
Okay.
Sorry. And that, because you were asking about father figures, and how, there was this guy, and there was Martin, and he was kind of a father figure, but not really, because he was...
You're referring to Martin?
Yes.
Okay.
Who was already a father, because he was the father figure of my cousins. And then you had this guy over here who was kind of a father, who, had some fatherly aspects, but he was the father of my friend.
Okay, and David's father, again, what did you say?
It was Andre.
Andre. Okay.
But as far as actual people who were coming in and trying to take the role of being a father, we'd have these guys, they would roll in, show up for a month, hey kid, I'm your new dad, and then just after a month or so, they just kind of go. After a month of just laying around, drinking and smoking. So it would eventually get to be the reason that we're not able to go off and bring home anybody worth a damn as a father is because of me. And
Well, hold on a second. Well, that seems like a bit of a non sequitur. Why do you say that?
because this is what I was told, My mom had always pointed out, it's look, the reason that she can't bring home anybody who was any good was because of me.
Well, did you ever say, what kind of sense does that make?
No, because, it was always that because she had a kid and all this other stuff, it made it really difficult for her to go off and bring home guys, and, to go off, meet guys or whatever. So...
But she did meet guys.
Yeah, but not ones that were worth a damn. So, it's kind of became this thing where... Here's the thing, is that occasionally she would go off and meet guys who actually were decent, right? There was this guy, Frank, that was Ian's dad, Ken. These were guys who...
Hold on. There was this guy, Frank, did you say?
Yeah.
That was...
No, there was this guy, Frank.
Okay.
And there was this other guy, Ian's dad, Ken.
Ken.
Yeah.
Okay.
These were both really, as far as I know, pretty good guys. These...
Now, hold on. I don't think you mentioned Frank this morning. Would you just give us a little bit of background?
No, I didn't. He was actually somebody that Mom had seen while we were in the pink stucco apartments.
In the
Pink stucco
Okay.
apartments.
What was Frank like?
He was this was somebody who was actually a really good guy. This was somebody who actually had his stuff together. He had his own place. He had a steady, well-paying job. He had his own vehicle. I mean, you really could do a lot worse than this guy. And, you know, we visited his place and we watched Star Wars, and I'm like, wow, this guy is really cool. He's telling me that, you know, oh yeah, the Jabba's talking in Japanese or something.
You're talking about the figure in Star Wars, Jabba the Hutt?
Yeah, yeah.
That speaks what is actually Japanese?
That's what he said anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, this guy is great, you know? He didn't last long at all.
Why not? Why didn't that work out?
I don't know. Mom just, I don't know.
Okay.
If we, none of us can. He was somebody else who had a straight job. He was a good guy. You know, we visited his home, and he seemed like a really good, you know, he had his own place. He had all this stuff going on, and it's just like, okay, now it's on him again.
Okay, so now...
But it was the guys who would be just complete leeches who would just kind of like sit around, smoke, and then eventually go off and like find some gal who was like half their age and then run off with that, and that's who Mom would be, who would take home and marry.
Well, so just we're going to get back to David Cote, I promise, but
Okay.
These guys come in and they drink and smoke and lay around, but your mom doesn't do any of that stuff? She doesn't drink or smoke?
She doesn't drink, she doesn't smoke. She, well, she has some work ethic. She's just not very good at it. I mean, for example, when I'd actually managed to get back in touch with her after a couple of years of no contact.
Hold on. Give us some time frame here, Joe.
I was about to. When I was with Michelle in Kent Terrace, when I had first moved out here about 2004. And at that point, she had 2 jobs. She was working at 7-Eleven and managing a Taco Bell. We aim high. And she's like, look, you know, we're kind of strapped for cash. We're having problems, and, you know, if you send me some money, I'll totally, you know, I wouldn't ask otherwise, but we really need it right now, and I'll totally pay you back. And it's just like, okay. Michelle fought me over, and I'm like, because she says, you know these guys aren't going to pay you back. You know how she is. You know she's like that. I'm like, no, she's actually trying now. And so over her objections, I sent the money. And then Mom flaked again.
And then?
Mom flaked again. And which gave Michelle the excuse to say, look, your family is a bunch of trash. And I don't want to have anything to do with them at all anymore. I don't want to hear from them. I don't want to, if they write, don't write back, any of that. So, it's, the first thing that she did once she got money from me is to go and like quit one of her jobs. I'm like, so, that was one of the things where I'm just kind of like, you know.
Okay, so hold on now. We're talking...
But the point of that was to kind of establish that she can, if she really feels that she has to. Usually, if she's got a fallback, she kind of gets lazy.
Okay, so let me jump in with a question here, Joe. We were talking about father figures, and you had your buddy David Cote.
Yeah.
You're about how old at this point?
I don't really know. I think from about 11 to 16.
Okay, so you knew this guy for a few years, right?
Yes.
He's from a more stable family situation than yours?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what was your relationship like with him? What did you do together? What did you talk about? I mean, you must have talked about something more than fathers.
Yeah, we really talked about that. No, it's just, I don't know, we talked about pretty much whatever. I mean, young...
Did you play any games with him?
Yeah, we had various, he would go up, you know, because he had a lot more money than I did, obviously, so he'd have video games and computer and stuff, and mostly I would just sit around and watch him play games and then help him do his chores stuff.
Well, did you ever play D&D with him or anything like that?
We played, that's what I meant by other games. We, I don't think we ever actually played D&D or anything, but we played other role-playing games like that. Yeah. You actually, a lot of times, what we would do is we would play those games, and then I would just kind of work off of kind of ad-libbing, where he would play the, like he would take the role of a character and just say, okay, what he's doing, and I would come up with what this guy is, what the world around him is going on, and what this person's going through, you know. If anybody's ever played D&D or any other role-playing game, which I'm guessing you probably haven't, but there's what each of the players controls a particular character going through their little thing, right? This is very much like what I was talking about with the writing group. How one person writing group, where you have one person who sets up the storyline and comes up with what the background is and whatnot, and where it's going to be going and everything, and then you have the other people join in and go have their only controlling their specific character, whereas the other person is controlling basically everybody else.
So you played this with David sometimes?
Yeah, he really liked it.
Games like that?
Yeah.
Did you like it too?
Yeah.
Did you play it with anybody else growing up? How about your brother, Chris?
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. Not often. He didn't really get into it too much.
Okay, so, all right, so, and did you maintain contact with David Cote after that period in your life?
No, most of the time when I would move away, I would just lose all contact with the people that I knew.
Okay, and so you'd said earlier from California you moved up here to Puget Sound area?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, it's all right.
Yeah.
And did you keep in touch with David after that?
Let's see, when I came up here from California, in fact, yeah, that was when we, I think what it is that, how did that work out? Because I remember actually having to go pay for Kathy paid for the truck, for the U-Haul, right?
Kathy Cote paid for the U-Haul?
The U-Haul, yeah. So, no, I don't really remember having any more contact with David after that.
Okay. Let me, the other thing you mentioned this morning, we talked a little bit about your relationship with your brother Chris, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes good, sometimes bad?
Sometimes good, sometimes bad, yeah.
Okay, you had some complaints about his keeping up with things around the house?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say.
So, you mentioned this, this incident with the trailer in Arizona where there were some other kids, I guess, calling you names and saying things about you, right?
More of bashing on the windows and doors and rocking the trailer and threatening to kill me, yeah.
So, was that the only time that something like that ever happened to you involving Chris?
Actually, no, that kind of stuff would happen more than... No, it's kind of stuff would actually happen every so often, where he'd get... Like I said, it would be basically all of the chores would fall. Mom would have this view of, okay, I was expected to, because I was the oldest one, make sure that everything was taken care of. But if I was to go and complain if I was to go off and like yell at at basically Chris, then he would go and complain to Mom, or she would go off and yell at me directly for doing so. So eventually I got to a point where I just got frustrated with that, and there was a couple times where I actually got frustrated and got physically violent with him. The first time he went to Mom, she got upset at me, as you've already heard. The second time he went to Aunt Mary, she came down on me. And the third time he had the cops called in on me. And
let me jump in. Let's talk about the cops.
Okay.
About how old were you, Joe?
I was only about 13, 14.
Okay.
What had happened in this particular instance is I had picked Chris up, flipped him over, and dropped him on his head.
Okay, he was probably a bit smaller than you at that time?
Yeah. I wasn't particularly big either, but yeah.
Did you get arrested?
No.
What happened?
No, they came in and told me that it doesn't matter why you're upset at him. It doesn't matter what your excuse is, that violence is not okay and will be, followed up on. And it's like, okay, well. And so since then, I just stopped, okay? Because it became obvious at that point. And it's like, I mean, there's mom, and it's just, mom gets upset, right? And Mary gets upset, it's a little bit more, but then you have Cockroach, it's like, okay, right, I'm done, screw this. I'm just going to go take it on the jaw and just leave it.
You're just going to go do what?
I'm just going to take it on the jaw and leave it. So he can go off and do whatever he feels like, he can go and just get away with whatever he feels like, and I'll just have to take it, whatever. Because there was no recourse, because complaining just goes off and gets me ignored, and then I have to deal with it anyway. And fighting just goes off and gets me in trouble, and then I have to deal with it anyway. So what's the point of going and making any kind of a fuss?
When did you start thinking like that, Joe?
When did I start thinking like that?
Approximately what age?
About 11. I'd say it was kind of solidified at about 14.
Okay.
By that particular event I just told you.
Okay.
So,
did you ever get treated or talk to a counselor or a psychologist or psychiatrist when you were young like that? CPS referred to something like that.
I saw a counselor once, twice, maybe 3 times.
And did you
He
report
was...
Hold on. You gotta wait for the question.
Okay.
Did you report that this kind of thing was going on, or that you were having these feelings?
I'd like to note, by the way, that what I was going to say is that this particular counselor was at my school, right?
Okay.
And, no, as
And know what?
no, in answer to your question, no, I did not tell him, my feelings or anything like that.
Why not?
As I don't like to I'd rather than getting upset at things or making people look bad or feel bad about whatever, I usually just kind of internalize it and ignore it. And then later on, when it comes up in situations where it might be important to notice or mention it, I have a hard time remembering it. And I don't, like Dr. Ben said, I have a hard time opening up in general. I have a hard time in talking about things and specifically my problems. I mean, the only other person I had talked to about the past and what I've gone through is Michelle. And she used that against me. So
let me ask you a little bit more. I want to move us on from California and get us up here to the Puget Sound. A couple more quick follow-ups. Any further effect on your life that the ITP, the blood disorder, had?
The thing about the ITP is that it's something that could, like I was trying to say earlier, is that it's something that could resurface at any time. So I had resurface at any time. So it was something that I had to go and be careful with, that this could go and any major trauma, any going and any major illness, any major intoxication, I smoked for a little while, but not much. I never really drank. I never really used much in the way of drugs except for marijuana. And just, so that was that. And then, of course, the more important one was that for most of my life I had to go and feel that was the constant fact that I should have died then. And that I had come really close to dying, and that, 1, 2 years old, well, I'm ready, apparently some part of my body's already okay, I should die, so...
So hold on, let's run over that again, because I'm not sure I caught it all. You felt like maybe you should have died?
That I should have died at that point, and so I was only...
Hold on, at what point, Joe?
When the ITP hit me.
When you were 1 or 2 years old?
Yeah. And so the fact that I was alive was basically an accident. And so I really had to go and justify the fact that I was still alive by being useful, which sometimes I was more than others.
Sounds like you were pretty useful around the house growing up.
I tried to be.
Did you ever talk to your mom about death or about these feelings? Hey, I'm feeling like maybe I shouldn't have survived that. Any kind of conversations with your mom about death or anything?
Let me tell you something. When I was about 6 to 8 years old was about to fall asleep, I tried to commit suicide, okay?
Hold on. Was the first time you what?
Tried to commit suicide. I went and wrapped I was actually in a full room, and I went over and wrapped the cotton cord around my neck.
Hold on. You wrapped a what?
Cotton cord around my neck.
Okay.
And tried to asphyxiate myself. Now, I found out since then that doesn't actually work.
You've found out since then?
That doesn't actually work. When you pass out, you let go.
So, hold on. Where was this?
This was in the living room.
Of whose house?
This was in the living room that we were living in with Aunt Mary, Martin, and everybody else.
So at Homestead or one of those places?
Yeah, Homestead, and everybody was right there. Now, where I'm getting at with this is that...
Wait a second. I'll let you tell us what you're getting at. Everybody was right there?
Yeah.
And you're like wrapping this curtain cord around your neck and nobody's saying, hey, stop that.
What I'm getting at is that if any of them end up like watching this or hearing this...
Would you say it again?
If any of them might end up watching this or hearing this is what they would know about it, as far as I know.
Who, Martin or Mary or your mom?
Or anybody, yeah.
Why wouldn't they know about it? Weren't they in the same room?
Yeah.
Well, why wouldn't, tell us.
Because I was just, I don't know. I wasn't in front of them. I was off to the side. I was actually very, feeling really just upset with myself, angry with myself, just really nobody gives a damn, and so I went out to prove it.
So you what?
So I went out to prove it, and guess what? I was right.
You went out to prove it, and you were right because they didn't notice? Is that what you mean?
No.
Joe, didn't you have marks around your neck? Did you pass out? Like, what happened?
Actually, I talked to my grandmother who was dead at that time.
Your grandmother was dead at that time?
Who was dead at that time.
What do you mean you talked to her?
She told me to...
She was dead or she wasn't there?
Dead. Both, actually. So...
Hey, Joe, I'm sorry, you got to keep your voice up.
I know, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, this is really awkward for me. I don't really like putting myself out there. I'm a very introverted person.
Okay.
Introverted. I don't like talking about myself.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask you a whole bunch more questions about
That's fine.
yourself.
A quick note, though, is, Dr. Dutton actually was right to not...
I don't understand that.
Dr. Dutton actually was right to not use a tape recorder, because I would have been a lot less ready to talk to him if he had that going.
Okay, well,
right.
Putting that aside, I'm sure it will come up.
Yeah, well.
Okay, so you tried to kill yourself when you were 6 or 8 years old, right?
Yeah.
You had some conversation with your grandmother who was already dead at that point?
Yeah. Yeah.
But did you ever talk to your mom about death, or did your mom ever say anything to you about death? Sort of, how were you aware? 6 to 8 years old, I guess there's an awareness of death, but did you have any... Had you ever talked to anybody about it or anything like that?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay. Dr. Dutton mentioned something about your view of mirrors.
Yes.
Tell us about your view of mirrors.
They're not quite right, I guess. Like, there's just a lot of these things are really hard to explain. It's just...
Joe, you gotta speak a little louder and into the mic.
Yeah.
Try again.
A lot of these things are hard to explain. It's just that they're not right. A couple of times I've seen things where it's like they don't really align with what's the reality that I'm in. Just they're off.
Okay, so if you look in a mirror, you can see yourself.
Yeah, it's just it probably made me seem really vain when I was out in the real world, because I would look...
Hold on, they probably what?
Made me seem vain when I was in the real world, because I would look at mirrors all the time to make sure that they weren't doing whatever, which...
Did you ever talk to your mom about mirrors? Does she have any similar views?
No, not that I don't know. I never talked to her about it.
Okay. When you say you talked to your grandmother when you were trying to kill yourself as a child, what did she say to you? Do you remember?
She said that I should stop that, and that, not like stop that, just more of, this isn't, you don't need to do that, it's not helping. So I figured she was right and I stopped.
Okay. And other than that, I just want to get a little bit more of a sense of the household, how the household worked. You had to do some cleaning and chores around the house, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, most of it was on me, yeah.
Okay.
If it didn't get done, then it would end up on me.
Well, what about grocery shopping? Was your mom doing that?
She would go and shop for groceries at the beginning of the month when we got the food stamps, and then throughout the rest of the month would be on me.
She would go at the beginning of the month when you got the food stamps, and then the rest of the month on you?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be paying for the groceries. I would be taking the food stamps down to pay for them and bringing them back.
Okay.
So,
I mean, was that a consistent pattern? You had to do some of the grocery shopping?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about cooking? Who would do the cooking?
It would vary. It would be either me or Chris or Mom.
Okay. So that was shared around?
Yeah.
Okay. What about clothes? Where'd you get clothes? Did you have enough clothes to wear?
Not most of the time, actually.
Well, where would you get clothes?
We would, usually we would get, every couple of years we go to Goodwill and get some stuff. Not all that often, but sometimes we get hand-me-downs from other people,
Okay, but you had a shirt on your back, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What about your grandpa?
Usually had a shirt on my back, but I had a hard time finding underwear and socks.
You'd have a hard time finding underwear and socks?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me ask you, what about your grandpa? Was he retired by the time you were a teenager?
As far as I know.
Okay. Did he ever say, hey, come on, let's get you a pair of shoes here, or shirts, anything like that?
No, not that I know of.
Okay. I wanted to ask you another question about you. When CPS came in, they said that that the pain was all in your head. You said you were having all these aches and pains.
Yeah.
Do you have any sense, was that real pain, or where was the pain coming from?
I still get that sometimes. I actually, my own belief is that it's kind of holdover from last time I died.
Hold on. I think we better go a little slower through that. Your own belief is that it's kind of a holdover from what?
The last time I died.
Okay. Explain that, please.
Well, people die, and sometimes people die and reborn, die and reborn.
People what?
Die and reborn, die and reborn.
That's your belief?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the after sometimes they if they die particularly badly, that kind of carries over. So
you thought the joint pain was what?
From that.
Somehow related to that?
Yeah, I just had a memory, I had a memory of that, and I woke up with that, and it just stayed with me since, for like the next decade or so, decade and a half.
Well, I guess I've got to ask, to follow up on that, do you have some sense that Nathan and Olivia are going to get reborn or something?
Yeah.
You do? So what, it was okay to kill them?
No. Look, just because at the time I believed that they were in this suffering, horrible life, and
you didn't mention that to Detective Pavlovich?
Because since then I've realized that that's probably not true. Between the time and when everything happened and the time when I talked to Detective Pavlovich, I came to the realization that that's probably not true.
When you say everything happened, between the time when you killed them?
When I killed them and the time, yeah. So, yeah. So I thought that they were having this suffering, terrible life, and even if if they weren't doing badly already, they'd probably be doing pretty badly after going through that. So the only decent thing to do would be to save them from what would be a fate worse than death, and so allow them a chance to cycle through and have a new life.
Cycle through.
Yeah. And no, that doesn't make it any better if you're really looking at it, because it still leaves this huge hole in everybody else's life. It still leaves this awful damage in everybody else's life. I mean, these aren't people who didn't have friends. These aren't people who were like hermits who just lived as islands.
Would it be okay to kill them if they were?
No, it would not. What I'm getting at, though, is that there was this impact, and as we saw yesterday, not yesterday, but the day before, I mean, that was my version of hell, okay? Knowing that I have went and done this horrible, awful stuff and made this huge, terrible impact in these people's lives. And for what? Because I thought I had to? Was I really that stupid? Yeah, I was, actually. Sitting here listening to my thing, I'm like, was I really this callow, this foolish, to fall for these things, this willfully ignorant, to believe her? Yeah. So.
Joe, I put a cup of water next to you up there if you need it.
Hey,
I didn't do it just now. I did it before we started.
I really need if you had.
Okay. We're going to talk more about that. I want to continue going through the chronology of your life, so make sure we get all this information.
Okay.
Did your mom ever date Martin, Aunt Mary's boyfriend?
Not that I know of. Well, not that I knew of. At this point, I think so, but that's only from stuff that I found out since.
Okay. What caused you guys to move to Seattle? Why'd you do that?
I think it was the fact that she was getting kicked out of yet another place. And, I'd like to take a moment here to point out that...
Keep your voice up.
Sorry. I'd like to take a moment here to point out that this constantly getting kicked out of places and having things shut off, that really bothered me, I mean, nobody wants to be that person who's just like this low-life, just couch surfer, I guess, would be the way of putting it.
Just what?
Couch surfer would be the way of putting it. And, it was very obvious from early on that I and we were viewed as being parasitic because of that. And so when I was able to go off and move beyond that and, keep us from having, when we were in Arizona the second time, I was paying for everything, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. So,
but you were viewed as parasitic?
Yeah, that was my view of our financial situation in general as well. So.
Okay. So what made you guys move to Seattle? You thought you might be getting kicked out, but why Seattle?
Forgot about that. Sorry. Well, we would go on just little whims. She'd happened to see Sleepless in Seattle and recognize the Space Needle from a dream that she'd had. Mom, I mean. And so she'd found some place up here that rent was cheap at, and so we went up here.
Who'd you come up here with? How'd you get up here?
At this point, she had some guy who she was living with. No, she had some guy who was living with us. Sorry. It's Marty and
Marty?
Yeah.
Now, hold on. Is this the same as Martin, Aunt Mary's boyfriend?
No.
Different Marty?
Yeah.
Okay.
My guy. So, yeah, we had Marty and and I think Tony as well, who was he was Marty's friend,
Not Mom's boyfriend?
Right.
Okay.
So we all moved up here like that.
Did Brian, whose last name we don't know, but who went to Sahuarita, Arizona, did he ever resurface?
He did resurface later on.
Where were you when he resurfaced?
I think we were actually back up here. Yeah, we were actually up here when that happened.
Okay, and did he live with you?
I think we were with.
Back here? Back up here.
In the Seattle area?
Yes.
Okay. Did he live with you too?
For a little while.
Okay,
And then he went off to better pastures, I guess.
okay. So you came up here with Marty and Tony
I
after
think so.
sometime around Sleepless in Seattle?
I'd say about a year after that, yeah.
Okay, so how old were you when you got up here, do you know?
19.
Sorry?
19.
19.
Yeah.
Well then, let me ask you, so this issue came up about your schooling. How far did you go in school, Joe?
I dropped out at the beginning of sophomore year.
And what town were you in at that time?
I was in Santa Clara at the time.
And tell us the story, please. Why did you drop out of school? I mean, you seem like a pretty bright guy.
Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is that I simply wasn't doing well in school.
Why not?
Well, partially because I didn't have any books. That got in the way.
Hold on. How could you not? Was this a private school or something?
Well, no. Actually, I had gotten sick in class at one point.
You got sick in class?
Yeah. And I had said that I needed to go to the nurse, and so the teacher was just like, okay, just leave your stuff and go, right? So I just left. When I came back, he let somebody else take my stuff. So because I wasn't able to replace the books, we weren't able to get new books.
Wasn't there any inquiry? I mean, that sounds like one of these misunderstandings that happen all the time in high schools around the country, if not around the world. I mean, isn't there some way to kind of say, wait a minute, follow up with the teacher, who took the books, et cetera, et cetera? Was any of that done?
No.
Did you, so was that the cause of your dropping out, or was there something else?
So that was part of it.
What was the whole
That
story?
was part of it.
Tell us the whole story, please.
The rest of it was that Mom was actually, at this time, she was doing really, her health was really, really bad.
What was wrong with her health?
Well, it turned out that she had a really malignant case of uterine fibroids,
Okay.
and that they eventually had to give her a massive hysterectomy to correct that. Unfortunately, they didn't realize that they had to do that for several years. That didn't end up happening until years down the line, so she was basically hemorrhaging every month. It's great. Yeah.
So, getting back to the high school.
She was, tired and exhausted all the time, and somebody needed to go off and watch the kids, and I didn't feel like I was one of those, so it's just like, why even bother?
Where was that?
At the schools. I mean, the teachers looked at me like I was trash, and the students treated me like I was trash, and for crap's sake, I was trash. So I just, I didn't like going, and eventually, when there was an excuse, I just left.
Were you getting in fights there or something?
No. No, I don't fight. I'm not a combative individual, no. No, just, they would, I can't even think about how to go off and make it clear now. It's just, you don't meddle, screw off. Just another one. I mean,
So
it might not be obvious from how Joel and Colin this whole scene is, but it's just, throughout everything has always been, you don't meddle, screw off, you don't meddle, screw off, you don't meddle, we don't want you, go away.
Is that how you felt?
That's almost always pretty much been. Eventually I managed to go off and pick myself up and do a better job of things, and then I met Michelle. Things went really downhill.
But her family didn't treat you like that, did they?
Her family was great. Look, the only person in that entire family who was ever mean to me, who was ever cruel to me, who ever betrayed me or just treated me like crap was Michelle, the one I kept alive. But, you know, no, I like these people. They were good people. I mean, when I called them mom and dad, I wasn't being ironic. I really did accept them as my mom and dad because I'm just like, I mean, by that point I had stopped having anything to do with my family because it had just become too much of a strain, because by that point I actually literally was carrying everything. I'm like, look, Mom, I can't do this anymore. It's just too much, okay? And so I left. And eventually I ended up meeting Michelle, and that worked out really well too. But, you know, family was fantastic.
Okay. We're getting there. Tell us about Seattle. What did you do when you were up here? You were 19 when you came up here?
Yeah, eventually I...
Hold on. Where was your first job, Joe? Your first... Sounds like you did odd jobs around. I'm not asking about odd jobs. I'm asking about your first more formal employment.
I got a job at the Burien Burger King, actually.
The Burien Burger King?
Yeah.
Did you do a telemarketing job for a short time?
I did that afterwards.
Afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay, well then let's start with Burger King. Burien Burger King?
So, but that was a really good job, actually. No, not really.
Hold on, I missed some of that. That was a really good job, actually.
Actually, no, not really.
Okay.
You know, it was a really huge strain.
It was a really what?
It was a really huge strain. But, you know, when I was walking, I was great. I actually really worked really hard and really put myself into it. So people were actually sad to see me go. But
people were actually what?
Sad to see me go. I mean,
Sad to see you go?
Yeah, Mom and I both worked at that particular place. She had started off at... Mom and I had both worked at that particular place. She had started as a manager and I had started at, just a pro. When she quit, they're just like, okay, bye. When I quit, they were offering me a promotion and whatnot if I would stay. But after a year and a half of that, I was just... My hands had started shaking by that point. And I'm just like... twitching all the time and just, it's just too much of a strain. So I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
So, where did you work after Burger King?
So that's when the telemarketing came in.
Tell us about the telemarketing.
Can you imagine something with my voice and my introverted personality being a telemarketer, calling people up, hi, would you like to buy a portrait? And it's just great because it,
So you were trying to sell them a portrait, like photography?
Yeah, except they kept thinking I was trying to sell them poultry.
Poultry?
Yeah.
Chicken?
Yeah, because portrait and...
Got it.
Yeah. We just have to luck into this.
So that job didn't work out, did it?
That job was terrible.
How long were you at that?
1 day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your next job?
My next job, I got lucky and got hired on a Safeway, which was a really good job.
And where was that, please?
That was also in Burien.
In Burien?
Yeah.
Okay. And what did you do at Safeway?
I started off as a card attendant, and I started off as a card attendant, and I made my way up to helper clerk, which is stocking shelves, and I had also taken on cleaning the bakery and the meat area, and then I'd actually went and transferred from that over to doing the produce section. I was actually doing really well there. It was a really good job.
Okay.
Then Mom got kicked out again. Yeah, part of it was that she was getting kicked out. The other part was that she was having problems with the boyfriend, so she decided to take somebody up on the offer of... She was screwing around online, and some guy's like, well, hey, if you need a place to stay, you could always come crash with me. So we did.
And where did he live?
Down in Arizona. We went down
Okay, but hold on. But at this point, you're what, 20 years old? Right? I mean, free to go, right? Why not just say, hey, Mom, you know what? I got a job at Safeway. I'm good. I'm going to stand pat.
That's basically like the big false big mistake I made in my life.
That's what?
The false big mistake I made in my life.
Okay.
is leaving.
All right.
But I mean, she's like, look, I need you to go off and help me with the kids. I need you to help me with the kids. I can't do this on my own. It's like, okay, then I'm with you. Okay.
Okay. So
So
I'll ask you about the move down to Arizona
Okay.
and how we're going to go through and how you met Michelle and everything else. Let's take things one step at a time. Tell us a little
Okay.
bit more about Seattle. You're living, who was in your life at that time, or who was in your mom's life? Who did you live with? What was life like here in this area? That's several questions at once, so just try to take them one at a
yeah.
time. Could it have
Okay.
been South Park?
Yeah.
Okay, well anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, so we moved over to Peoria, and sometime around there she had met Mike Bates.
This is your mom?
Actually, before that, she'd actually met some guy that she was with at Wonk, but he didn't last very long. But yeah, my mom met Mike Bates, so brought him home. Just some guy that she picked up at Wonk.
And how long did he live with you?
About a year or two.
A year or two?
Yeah.
Now, and so at this point, this is Mike Bates and your mom, and
Yeah.
you and Chris and Ian and Sarah?
Yeah.
And so this is, you said you were 19?
19, yeah.
Okay, so we're roughly 1997 by this point?
I think so, yeah.
So Ian and Sarah are 7, 8 years old, more or less?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, did Chris stay in school, your brother?
I don't believe so, actually.
Okay.
At this point, he was still in school, I believe, but...
And were the younger kids going to school?
Oh, yes, yes.
And did you have any close friends in the area, or any friends?
Well, I mean, the people that I walked with.
Excuse me?
The people that I walked with.
Okay.
Eventually, I had one of the gals that I was walking with, Shoshana. I went on a couple dates with her.
Okay, this is Shoshana?
Yeah. And she ended up having a problem where she had got kicked out. I'm like, well, then you can go and, stay over at my place. You can have my bed if you want, That sounds like a really bad comment, but it's not.
So were you sleeping in the bed with her?
No.
No. Okay.
No. So she ended up bringing a friend along who was also female. It's like, okay, you guys basically end up giving them control of the bedroom.
So you gave him your bedroom?
Pretty much, yeah.
Where were you sleeping?
Well, I had a different bed.
In the same room?
Yeah.
And how long did that go on?
I don't know. About 6 months, I guess.
So was Shoshana your girlfriend?
I thought so. She didn't think so, but I thought so.
Seems like that's something that kind of requires a meeting of the minds, don't you think?
One would think. Apparently so. Because, like I said, I thought so, but she didn't think so, so apparently not.
Well, did you have this conversation with her at the time? Like, what's the status of our relationship?
No, I mean, we'd gone out a couple of times, and so because we were getting along so well, I'm like, okay, well, if you got kicked out, then you can go and live with me. And I thought that from that, because one of the reasons I was doing that was because she was getting kicked out, right? And no, one of the reasons I was doing that was because we all had a little kind of a thing going. And it turns out apparently that's when it kind of ended. Yeah. So,
Okay.
did we ever actually discuss that? No.
Okay.
Until the point where she just decided to just leave one day. It's like, okay, great, thanks.
So she wasn't still around when you went to Arizona, correct?
No, but between then and later, I'd end up being between then and Arizona, I was really suicidal for a while.
You were suicidal?
Yeah.
So tell us about that. Like, what were your thoughts? What were you doing? Were you still working?
No, actually, I quit.
You quit where?
I quit working by that time, and I quit working, and eventually I had gotten over the suicidalness, and I got a new job at Safeway. Got a new job at Safeway, and everything was going okay again. And then we moved on to Arizona.
So was Mom with Mike Bates the whole time there?
Not the whole time, but a lot of it, yeah.
Okay.
So we'd actually started getting great because we'd actually like got all stuff together. Chris was finally going to school again, and he was actually paying attention in school, and he was doing well. The kids were doing well in school. I was at my job, and I was doing well, and things were working out really well all around. And then just okay, I approved everything. Let's just go. So
you were working at Safeway, right?
Yeah.
And you were in the produce department, did you say, by this
at
time?
that point, yeah.
Is that a union job?
Oh yeah, it was great.
So, people raise up a family doing that.
Yeah.
So, was there ever a conversation with Mom like, hey, what kind of sense does this make? I got a good job. Why don't we stay here?
I don't recall, actually. I don't.
But you were making money. Was your mom working?
I don't think so.
And you were getting evicted, did you say?
I think so, yeah. I think the guy was, we were living in a house, and the guy had found a seller for that. Had found a buyer. Had found a buyer for the house.
Had found a buyer for the house?
Yeah.
I see.
So
it wasn't necessarily a non-payment of rent situation?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But she had a much easier time making sure that the bills and whatnot were getting paid once I started giving her rent. So.
Okay. Because at a certain point, your mom said you're 18 years old.
As soon as I started working, I was giving her money, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's
it
fair enough.
really helped make sure that the bills were getting paid.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about the move to Arizona, please. Who was this guy that she was going to move in with?
Don Johnson.
Don Johnson?
Yeah. Not the guy from Miami Vice.
Got it.
No. So the U-Haul and the gas and everything, that was all on me. So I actually ended up having to go take a loan out on my walk to be able to pay for the gas and what.
You took a loan out of what?
Out of walk, to be able to pay for the gas and stuff, and pawning various items.
Pawning various items?
Yeah, to pay for gas and...
Like before you left?
Actually on the road.
You were pawning things on the road?
Yeah, because...
Like what were you pawning?
I had a sword that I had gotten with my previous tax return. I ended up having to sell that. From my previous tax return.
You had gotten a what? A sword?
Yeah.
But you don't fight?
It's just a sword. If you're going to fight someone, you're not going to use a sword.
Okay, so you pawned your sword on the way down there to put money in the tank?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Mom's like, oh, don't worry, we'll get it back. We never did. Don't worry, we'll get it back. We never did.
So who's going down there? This is in the U-Haul?
This is in the U-Haul, and so it's me, Chris, Ian, Sarah, the dog that's pregnant. Really pregnant, actually. We're in a Oregon rest stop. The dog, middle of the night, sleeping in the front seat. There's my day to do that. Dog goes and climbs up and feels like does what feels like taking a big dump on me, right? And it turns out
keep it clean, Joe.
Sorry. Well,
go ahead.
It felt like, I was just describing what it felt like. It turned out that she was actually giving birth on me.
She was giving birth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the dog had some puppies?
On me.
In the U-Haul?
In the U-Haul.
Okay. And you were continuing on your way to Arizona?
I'm sorry if that offended anybody.
And then you continued on your way to Arizona?
We continued on our way to Arizona.
Puppies in the truck?
Where else are we going to put them?
What's that?
Where else are we going to put them?
Where else are we going to put them? Okay.
Yeah.
So how you got down to Arizona eventually? Is that right?
Yeah, we eventually got down to Arizona. Showed up at the parking lot down the street from where this guy lived, and called him. I was like, Mom calls him. I was like, guess what? We're here, and he's just like, what? So
did he not expect you?
No, I don't think he was particularly amused.
There's 5 of you?
And the dog and puppies.
The dog and the puppies.
And his, condo doesn't allow for animals.
And the condo didn't... What town was this in?
Phoenix.
Phoenix?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so they had to be kept out. So they had to be kept outside, and most of them died from the heat.
The puppies?
Yeah. And so it was just a bad fit all around. I managed to get a job at a gas station, And since I had that going, the Don Johnson's like, look, you're the only person here who's...
Speak up.
Don Johnson came to me and he's like, look, you're going to have to go and get your family out of here. And it's like, because I'm telling you this because you're the only adult here. So
Did he use those words?
Yes.
Did he have kids of his own or family, wife, anything like that?
No. He was a very solitary person. You know some people, you know how when you visit some people, they have like homes that are like completely immaculate? And you can tell that this guy lives by himself. And that's the only way that it can be this immaculate. That's how he was.
That's how he was. And then the five of you showed up with it.
And it was just not anymore. Yeah.
So he came to you and said...
I did what I could to go off and keep everybody from not freaking out and like running around, but it didn't work.
So how long did you live with Don Johnson?
A month.
And then what happened?
So after he told me that, I went and found a place as quickly as I could. We put all of our stuff in storage, and we moved to that new place, which all the bills were in my name. Sorry, the rent was in my name, the utilities were in my name, the phone was in my name, water was in my name.
So why is that a big deal? Couldn't your mom just put it in her name?
Well, she didn't have any credit, so I had to go off and cover everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that what you did?
Yeah.
And you were
she didn't have a job. She wasn't getting, most of the time she had, in California and Washington, she had been getting assistance. I guess in no previous stint down in Arizona, she'd been getting assistance. This time, it was all on me. So
well, why couldn't she get assistance, though? She's a mother with young children. I would think that, at the very least, she should be getting food stamps, right?
I don't know.
Did her fibroid condition qualify her for SSI or anything like that?
She didn't know about the fibroid condition at the time.
Where were the tumors removed?
Actually, I think they were removed down there.
Down there in Arizona?
In Arizona, yeah. But this was down the line.
Okay, so everything gets put in your name. You get an apartment. What town was this in?
It's not that everything was put in my name. It's that I was paying for everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what town were you in? Is this still Phoenix or nearby?
Yeah, this is Glendale.
Glendale, which is
Part of
next to Phoenix?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
And tell us about the place you moved into there. Did the kids get back in school at this point?
yeah, they got back in school, and I don't honestly know how well they're doing. I think they were doing pretty good, though.
You got to speak up, Joe.
Everybody got back in school,
Including yourself?
No. I guess not everybody then, huh? Mom went to, she did a little bit of trucking school for a little while, and then she flaked on that.
Trucking school?
Yeah.
Wasn't in the CPS records back in '92 when y'all were in California, wasn't she in nursing school at the time?
No, she was actually, at that point she was studying to be a physical therapist.
Okay, well, that's a good position. Did that work
She
out?
flaked out on that too.
Flaked out? Okay.
She would get discouraged.
Okay.
So,
Was your mom good at anything?
she was actually very good at art, for example.
Art?
Yeah.
What kind of art?
I'd actually seen a couple of the pictures that she had drawn when she was younger. She had, I don't know. The only ones that I seen was, some kid, climbing a board fence to get at a cat.
So it was good. She had some talent.
That was very good, I thought it was me until I saw a newspaper clipping that had the same picture and realized that it wasn't. Anyway, I don't know now.
So let's get back to Arizona here.
Yeah.
So you were working, did you say, at a gas station?
Mm-hmm.
And so how long did you stay in Arizona, and what caused you to leave? And I think earlier this morning you said you got to North Carolina from Arizona. Is that the next stop on the on the trip here?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's fill us in on Arizona, please.
Okay. I was working at the gas station, and that wasn't going too well. But
why not?
Because providing for a family of 5 off a gas station wage, $5 an hour, is not very easy.
Okay, and this is, by this time, what year are we in?
At this point, we are...
98, maybe?
99.
99, okay.
99.
So you're 20, about to be 21 years old.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
So we had and I was giving all the money. I couldn't pay the rent, and because I was working all day, and so I would give all the money to pay the bills, and then she would usually go off and like waste on something else, which is really awful because she's not the one who's going in accruing.
Which is what?
Really awful because she's not the one who's accruing the debts.
Everything was in your name, but it wasn't getting paid.
Because despite the fact that I was going and giving all the money to pay it, she wasn't bothering to pay it. Yeah.
Okay. And what is your mom doing at this point? Is there any new guy in her life?
During this time, she had met a guy named Al Johnson.
Al Johnson.
Yeah, who she eventually married.
Okay.
And he was an interesting character. He actually did go off and he actually would work labor ready and taxi driving. It's great.
He worked at Labor Ready and taxi driving?
Yeah.
Okay, so was he bringing in some money?
He was, barely covering his cigarettes.
Tell us how she met Al. Like, how did that come to pass?
Actually, the circumstances for that was that I was wanting to get a piercing. Can't remember exactly which one now.
You wanted to get a piercing?
Yeah, but one of our neighbors, when Mom take one of our neighbors out.
Would you say that again?
When Mom take one of our neighbors out, that's what I said, but that's totally incorrect. When Mom had taken the kids to the pool in the apartment complex to take them
To
swimming.
the what?
Pool in the apartment complex, swimming.
To the pool, the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Okay.
She met one of the other neighbors who had several piercings, Angie, and they talked and got along really well. Introduced to her husband who does piercings.
Angie's husband does piercings?
Yeah, Virgil.
Virgil?
And eventually her dad came by and they got to know each other and eventually got married.
So Angie's dad is?
Al Johnson.
Al Johnson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that
Your
a
Honor.
good place to break?
Yes, Your Honor. May we have the break?
No problem. So if you can read your notepad in terms of
Okay.
Good.
The only one that they wanted to come back was actually me.
What
And
did you say?
the only one they wanted to come back was me and made Al really jealous about the whole thing. It was just weird.
Joe, you gotta slow down. And you
It
gotta,
made Al really jealous, and that was just weird.
because hold on. Because the painters just wanted you to come back and not Al. So
Yeah.
He got jealous. Is that what happened?
So having your stepdad sitting here and sniping at your boss when you're at home, and then when you're at work, having your boss sniping at your stepdad, that was a little bit awkward.
Okay. So
That was awkward.
awkward.
Yeah. Sorry.
So, how long did you work for the painter, and were you still living in with your mom?
Yeah. During that time, I worked there with him for a couple months, and during that time I was still living with Mom. I was living there too, and eventually I was still paying all the bills. I was, like I said, mostly covering his own cigarettes, if that. He just didn't see much reason to try, I guess. So eventually I went over and, I gave them money. I gave them money to go and pay I gave them money to go and pay the phone bill, and Mom just, wasted, went and bought a new dress for Sarah. It's like I said, I didn't already have enough dresses. So the phone bill got cut off again. I'm just like, okay, look, this is too much. And Al previously had said that he had some friends that live up by Vegas, and if I ever wanted, then I could go off and do that. I'm like, look, is that still open?
So you went up to Vegas to work?
Yeah.
And what did you do up there?
The reason that I was okay with leaving it at that point, because, okay, this is somebody that she's living with. Not that she's living with, but that who seems long-term, who seems to be interested in going and being, actually, taking the role of a father.
This is Al?
Yeah.
Okay, even though he was not working.
That's in general, yeah. So, I thought maybe this would motivate him a little bit. I don't know.
Pardon me?
I thought maybe this would motivate him a little bit. I just couldn't handle it anymore.
So you moved up to this area near Vegas,
Yeah.
and what kind of work were you doing up there?
For a while, I wasn't doing anything. I was just trying to find work, actually. Just going everywhere and dropping off applications everywhere. I went up there with about $20, and that was about all the food that I had for that month. So, end up with having a single bologna sandwich for a day's meal,
But what kind of work did you eventually find up there?
Eventually, I was able to do some tree throwing.
Tree?
Throwing. That's when you take that's when people go in, they cut down trees and you take the branches and throw them in a wood chipper.
Tree throwing?
Yeah.
Okay, so
actually
you're,
throwing anything.
okay,
but
so you're working
sticking
for a
them in
tree
wood chipper.
service.
Yeah.
How long did you do that?
I did it for a couple of days and I was doing pretty good. And then Thanksgiving came around and got a call from Mom and she's like, hey, how about you come down and we'll feed you? And it's like, food, oh boy. Like I said, I wasn't eating very well at that particular time. So I went back for Thanksgiving and never actually have been back to Vegas since, well, the Vegas area since. So eventually, like 2, 3, 4 months down the road, Al went up there with Chris, got my stuff and came back. Some of it was missing, some of it was just messed up.
So,
whatever.
Joe, first of all, how are you getting back and forth from Vegas to Phoenix? You driving that?
No, actually, Al drove up, picked me up, and drove me back. And I'm like, okay, can I go back and get my stuff? And he's like, no, I don't even want to bother.
Well, but for all of this, I mean, you're working at the gas station, this place, that place, the other place.
Yeah.
Why didn't you ever learn to drive?
Because cars are dangerous.
Yeah, but come on.
Seriously, I don't particularly like cars. I mean, it's one of those things where you're getting something that costs, $1,000 or so at least, and you're leaving it. It's one of your most expensive possessions, and you're just going to leave it sitting out where anybody can go and grab it.
Yeah, but you can go and get jobs further away. I mean, there's all kinds of benefits to having a car. Millions of Americans agree. It makes a lot of sense to have a car, right?
Or you could just live in the city. Millions of Europeans agree.
But, Joe, seriously, why didn't you ever learn to drive? I'm not...
Seriously, I just did not want to.
Okay.
The financial... It was too expensive. Gas was too expensive. Insurance was too expensive. I didn't want the responsibility of having to worry about, hitting somebody with the vehicle or any of the other possibilities of it.
But Al drove.
Al drove, yeah.
Did your mom drive?
Not often.
But she did. She had a license.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
Did you ever get a license?
No.
Okay. When you left Arizona, you went to North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Would you tell us how that all came about, please? Why did you decide to leave, and where were you working before you left Arizona?
Okay. So after I came back, one of the things that had happened is that Mom had got me a job had actually signed me up for working at Target because it was the Christmas season.
Working at Target?
Yeah.
Okay.
Around the Christmas season, they're always hiring to get, temp work, and at the end of the season, they keep the people who they feel did a good job. So I started right after Thanksgiving, and at 3 months, I'd set up to transfer over to North Carolina. During that time, I saved up about $1,500, right?
$1,500?
Yeah. Used that as seed money. So Al and Mom were like, look, you're not going until we get married. For Mom, it's like, okay, I need to make sure that you're there, and for Al,
I need to make sure.
that you're here for me to get married, that you're there. And for Al, it was basically, okay, you're going to be paying for this, right?
You're going to be what?
Paying for this.
Okay.
I had extra. As far as he was concerned, I had extra money so I could pay for it. So, which really ended up going and doing me a screw in the long run, but whatever.
So you paid for their wedding?
So I paid for the wedding, and they said that they'd pay me back by sending me my stuff.
Okay. Now, what was your plan? What were you doing at this point? You've mentioned gaming and things. Were you doing online gaming and on this online story writing thing yet?
Yeah. No,
Yes?
that's one of the things that I've been doing since being up here in
Burien.
Burien, yeah.
Okay.
Since I was about 20, 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me also ask you, do you know, did you meet Michelle when you were living in Arizona or not until you moved to North Carolina?
Not until I moved to North Carolina.
How about the woman you mentioned in D.C., Griselle?
I met her when I was living in Washington, I believe.
Washington State?
Yeah.
And what about Amber?
I think I met her when I was living in Washington as well.
Okay. And did you kept in touch with them as you're in Arizona?
Yeah.
So why did you decide to move out, and why did you decide to move to North Carolina?
I decided to move out because, like I said, I couldn't handle carrying everybody anymore, and even when I'm giving them money to pay the bills, they won't pay the bills.
Okay, and at this point you're 21. It's 1999? 2000?
It was just after, it was just at the beginning of 2000.
Okay, so you're 21.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
And your brother Chris then is 16, 17 years old?
Yeah.
Okay, was he still in high school?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were tired of carrying everybody, why did you decide to move to Arizona? Excuse me, to North Carolina.
Sorry, I got things a little bit out of sequence. When I come back, Al had taken me up on the offer to be, the dad. He was just controlling everything. He was,
Al had taken you up on the offer to what?
to be the dad.
So he was being the dad?
Yeah. Usually we would get somebody in who would, okay, I'm going to be the dad. I'm going to be in charge of everything and tell everybody how to go off and do things. And if you don't like it, that's your problem. And Mom would just back him. But he'd get bored of it within a month and just bail.
Slow down, Joe.
Would get bored of it within a month and just bail. So, with Al, he just decided that everything was his and just decided to roll with that. So anything that was in the fridge, anything that... When I came back, I was literally paying $300 a month to sleep on a fold-away bed in the hallway. And the fun part is, nobody else was paying rent this entire time. I didn't know this, but this was true. Nobody was paying rent at all. And the place was in my name still. So I was giving them money, and they were just, blowing it on whatever and wouldn't bother to pay the rent.
So why did you decide to move to North Carolina?
So at that point, I'm just like, part of it is that I just couldn't stand Al. And the other part of it was that I was done living at home at that point.
So, but why, there's, 50 states. You don't have to move to North Carolina.
Why North Carolina in particular?
Yes.
There was this gal that I met online.
There was a gal you had met online.
Yeah.
And what was her name?
Her name was Jenny.
And what did you know about her?
Well, she seemed lonely and she seemed nice, and so I went over there to meet her and stuff. And
did she know you were coming? Did you have some agreement?
She knew I was coming.
Did you speak on the telephone?
Yeah.
Moving across country is kind of a big deal.
Anyway, so I went over there and
how'd you get there?
I took a plane.
You took a plane?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I took a bus. Sorry.
Took a bus.
Took a bus.
You rode the bus?
Rode the bus.
And you got to Fayetteville?
Got to Fayetteville.
And?
It worked out great. I never met her.
So you never met her? Did you get there and you call and say, hey?
Yeah. Called up, met her. She didn't answer, left her an email, or eventually caught up with her. We were going to go meet at this bookstore that had a cafe in it. We went there. Well, I went there. Waited all day. She never showed up. It was great. Worked out well.
Okay, so at this point, do you have all kinds of luggage or just one suitcase, or what's your deal?
You can only bring so much when you're going on the Greyhound, so yeah,
right.
You don't have much.
Okay, so you've got some luggage, but not much.
Yeah.
And so what'd you do? You had been working at Target in North Carolina, or in Arizona.
And I waited 3 months so I would be able to go transfer from that Target to this Target. And I wasn't able to go and set things up over this Target yet. I wasn't able to... So I was able to go off and get a little cheap hotel with the money that I did have. But I wasn't able to go off and get phone access. So I wasn't able to go online and talk with my friends or whatever. I wasn't able to call my family because, I tried, but they got on the phone cut off again, strangely enough. And, yeah. So I'm sitting there around Christmas thinking, wow, this is a really huge friggin' bummer, isn't it? And so after that, the HR guy came back and I was able to get a job and, just walk there anyway, and it ended up working out really well.
Because you were just supporting yourself at that point, right?
Yeah, if
You're
anything,
not supporting anybody else?
Yeah, if anything screwed up, it was on me, and, I didn't have to worry about anybody else being excessive.
Okay.
So,
Let me ask you a couple questions.
Okay.
First of all, we saw in the video when you were being arrested this crow tattoo.
Hmm?
When did you get that?
I actually got that right before moving to North Carolina, like literally the day before.
Why did you do it at that point?
Because it seemed like a good idea to, the hope was that it would strengthen the connection between me and the crow totemic thing. Totemic thing. And I don't know if it actually worked or not, but it seemed like a good idea.
All the
And
traveling you had done
time.
before, you had done with your mom, right?
No. The trip to
Vegas.
to Tahoe, to Vegas, to
Oh, right.
Sacramento was
You had
with
gone on
John.
that trip. That was with adults when you were a child.
Yeah.
But as an adult, the first time you traveled alone was Arizona to North Carolina, right?
Yeah. I mean, even when I was living at home, usually when I would go places, I would go places with Chris or with Mom.
Okay.
Usually not by myself.
Let me ask you something, Joe. All these places you lived when you were growing up, neighbors dangerous at any of those?
No.
I mean, were you living... Doesn't sound like you were living in Hollywood Hills or anything.
No, I was living in pretty ghetto places.
Pretty what?
Ghetto.
What does ghetto mean?
Just low rent. If people are working, they're not working good jobs. They're working low end, like service industry would be good. You know.
Working class apartments?
Well, I must say working class because working class is more of, okay, everybody's working, they've got decent jobs.
So this is maybe
But
not everybody's working.
low end.
Okay.
I mean, most people are working, and if they are working, they're getting, they're probably in line to get government assistance, or they're not working very good jobs, like they're working McDonald's or whatever.
Okay. Did you feel like the neighbors were going to attack at any of those places?
No.
When you
there
took
were
that...
concerns, but, I didn't like leaving the windows open,
Sure. You're locking your door at night.
Yeah, right.
Were you crouched inside the door with a sword in one hand and a revolver in the other, or anything like that?
No.
No.
The only time I really felt any concern was when we were in the area when we were in the last place in Arizona where occasionally we would hear gunfire.
Okay.
There was some concern at
So
that
did you get
point.
yourself a gun at that point?
No.
When you took the bus alone across country, did you get a gun to protect yourself?
No.
When you got to Fayetteville, North Carolina, that's a military town, right?
Yeah.
Fort Bragg, isn't it that in the area?
Fort Bragg and Pope Air Force.
Pope Air Force Base, right. You have short hair like you have now at the time?
Absolutely not.
You had long hair, right?
My hair was down to the middle of my back at that time.
Okay. You live in a
stood
good
out
part
like
of
a
town,
sore
bad
thumb.
part of
It's
town?
I need one person, please.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I stood like a sore thumb at that point. It was great.
You what?
Sorry, what was that?
Stood out like a sore thumb at that point. It was great.
You stood out like a sore thumb in that military town?
Yeah.
Were you living in a nice part of town or a not nice part of town?
When I first got there, I was not living in a very nice part of town.
Did you
I was,
arm yourself with a gun?
No.
Did you ever get attacked when you were in your hotel room?
No.
You said it was a low-end hotel? Like what kind of hotel? Marriott? Sheraton?
The kind that prostitutes hang out in front of,
Kind that prostitutes hang out in front of?
and that
See any drug activity?
a little.
You didn't arm yourself?
No.
Okay. Now,
They mind their business. You mind your business. It's all good.
Would you say?
You mind your business. They mind their business. It's all good.
okay. Now, how long did you live in Fayetteville before you moved out here?
Oh, a couple of years.
2 years, roughly?
I'd say so.
Okay.
Just so it's been noted, before I left Fayetteville, I'd actually moved first to a slightly nicer hotel, and then I actually rented a room from some dude, and that was in a pretty nice area of town, actually.
Because you rented a room from a guy, and what kind of work did that guy do?
He was actually in the Air Force.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he an officer?
He was an officer, yes.
Okay.
He retired and signed back on as a civilian employee, as far as I know. He retired and signed back on as a civilian employee of the Air Force, as far as I know.
Okay. Now, were you working at Target the whole time you were in Fayetteville?
Yes.
All right. And did you... well, let me ask you this. Michelle really was your girlfriend, unlike Shoshana, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's your first girlfriend? Where did that happen?
My first girlfriend actually was there. She
Was where?
was actually in Fayetteville.
Okay.
Her name was Kim. She'd had a thing where she kept falling down, so they put her on the operator, right? So this would happen sometimes where I would be on my day off and she'd call me up and be like, "Hey Joe, you doing anything today?" No, I guess not. I had a really hard time saying no to anything, right? So, no, I guess not. Okay, so you want to come in to work today? This particular time, it started off just like that. You doing anything today? No. Do you want to go out? What? Yeah.
So she asked you out?
Yeah.
And you had a relationship with her?
Yeah, we,
Okay, and, Joe?
Sorry?
It's okay. You said she had a thing, she kept falling down. Did she have anything wrong with her?
I eventually went with her to the hospital for support, and she found out she had MS.
How old was she?
She was only, like, 19, 20.
Okay, so it's pretty young for a diagnosis of MS. But she was your girlfriend for a while, right?
No, not really.
Well, did you have a physical relationship with her?
Yeah.
Okay.
But after she found out that she had MS, she's like, "Look, I can't handle you and the MS."
So,
Maybe if I had been able to drive, it would have been different. I don't know.
I didn't hear the last.
Maybe if I had been able to drive, it would have been different. I don't know.
got to speak up, Joe. Didn't hear you.
Maybe if I had been able to drive, it would have been different. I don't know.
Okay, but she broke up with you at that point?
Yeah.
And what was your response to that?
Just finally depression,
What's that?
Just incredible depression and really trying to change that. Didn't work though.
Really trying to change that in what?
Didn't work though.
Okay. So were you still getting up out of bed and going to Target and working and everything like that though?
Yeah. I mean, people were depending on me to go there to do my job. So
you did it?
When people depend on you to do your job, you do your job, yeah.
Right.
Look, my mom was not really reliable. The guys she would bring home were not really reliable, so somebody had to be reliable. Somebody had to be somebody that you'd count on.
Okay.
So that was
So let's quickly move through because I'm really trying to move us along
Okay.
here. Other important relationships that you had in Fayetteville? Any other girlfriends?
Well, she wasn't in Fayetteville. Katie was actually somebody who I had met through a friend from writing, and she was actually over in Nacogdoches.
That's in Louisiana?
Yeah. Natchottities, I think. I don't know. Sorry.
They won't judge you on this.
Yeah. So I went over there, and at first I wanted to just like move over, just fly over there and move over there again. She's like, no, maybe you should be a little bit more cautious this
So
time.
hold on. Let's stick. You were going to move over there to Louisiana to be with this woman? How long had you known her?
I'd say about 6 months.
Now Kim, she was there in Fayetteville with you, so you didn't have to move anywhere for her.
Yeah.
Okay, but Katie, you about 6 months. You'd never met her. You were going to move over there, and she said maybe not.
She said, maybe you should just come and visit first.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so is that what you did?
Yeah.
And how did that work out?
We met and we got together and things went really well for about 3.5 days.
And then?
And then she rolled over and told me, I don't love you anymore. And told me to get out of bed and just never explained to me why it didn't work out.
So did you get out of bed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else in that
told-
relationship?
I spent the next 3 days trying to get her to explain what happened and why. That didn't work, and eventually she got a really clean house out of the process, though.
And then what?
I ended up and being really frustrated and going and cleaning the entire house up really good.
So wait a second, Joe. Hold on. So you go down to Louisiana to meet this woman.
Yeah.
After 3 days, she says, "Get out of bed." You get out of bed, and
Yeah.
you stayed for a couple days then?
I had my return ticket wasn't for 3 more days.
Couldn't you bump it up?
I don't know.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Kim had MS. Did Katie have any problems like that?
She had a really severe depression. She'd actually had her entire forearms were slashed down on each side.
She was cutting on herself?
I don't know if she was still cutting on herself, but she had cut on herself, and that really made me feel like, she could use some, I guess not.
Like she could use some what?
Support, somebody who
Support?
cared about her. I guess
So did the fact that Kim have MS, was that something that was good
No.
for you? Or what?
No, I mean, granted, once I found out that she had MS, it's like, yeah, I was really kind of surprised that she got rid of me afterward, because I totally would have. I was like, yeah, I really wanted to take care of her after that, But
Okay. So that
Yeah.
with Katie didn't work out. There was another,
Yeah.
somebody else that Dr. Dutton mentioned. There was somebody in Philadelphia. Tell us about that relationship.
Oh yeah, that was Adrian, right?
Tell us about Adrian.
I went out there to. This was another one where I flew up there and hung out there for about a week, and we set up a place to meet. And this is before cell phones. The other one waiting for me, and then we just,
And you were really there for a week, or are you exaggerating, or you were there
No,
for
I was
7
really there
days?
for a week. And I'm like, okay, well, how about we try again? She's like, no, how about we don't?
So did she have some kind of issue as well, like
No.
Katie had? No?
No.
Okay.
Nothing
Now,
at all.
any other women that you visited? Didn't you visit?
Yeah.
Who was that?
I actually visited Amber at some point as well.
Okay, so you're still in touch with Amber.
Yeah.
And Amber lives in
Vermont.
Vermont, Burlington.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, and how did you get up to Burlington?
I took a bus.
From Fayetteville.
Mhm.
Okay. And did you? Now Amber was not your girlfriend, though, right?
No, she was just a friend that I was visiting, and we ended up doing stuff, and it was one of those things where I kind of left it open to see if she'd wanted to follow up on that, because I didn't want to go off and press her or anything.
You didn't want to what?
Press her?
You didn't. When you said we went up and ended up doing stuff, did you have an intimate relationship with her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but nothing came of it beyond that?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay. Now,
So,
and when you were done, how long did you visit Amber?
I visited her for a week.
And then you went back to Fayetteville?
Yeah.
Did you talk to Amber often on the phone?
Yeah.
How often?
No, I talked to her all the time. Not all the time, but a lot. On the phone, online, whatever.
So you got to know each other pretty well?
Yeah, we were really good friends.
And
She'd had somebody had attacked her, and through a mutual friend I found out that somebody had attacked her, and said, okay, well, let me talk to her, and so I was able to go off and help her through that, and we ended up becoming friends after that.
Joe, I missed that whole thing. You got to speak up and go through it again slower.
Somebody had attacked her, and I found out this from a mutual friend, because the friend was like, yeah, I'm talking with my friend Amber, somebody had attacked her, and would you like to help? And actually, I think I said, hey, can I help? So I did, and we ended up becoming really good friends from that. So.
Okay, so you helped her out, what, emotionally?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And just being there to talk to,
Just being there to talk to?
Yeah. Trying to help her out as much as I could.
What's that?
Trying to help her as much as I could. So.
Okay. Now, in the course of all this, when you're in North Carolina and you're working, you met Michelle, right?
Yeah.
You met her online in some writing group?
Yeah.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, did Amber know Michelle?
No.
Never had any contact with her through the writing group?
No. They were different groups.
Different groups?
Yeah.
And how did you decide, what was your relationship like with Michelle before you moved out here?
It was pretty positive. She came across as very sweet, very nice. Mostly a very sweet, very cute person, you know.
Did she send you pictures or anything?
I actually sent her a camera. She sent me some old pictures, and then I sent her a camera.
So Michelle sent you old pictures and you sent her a camera?
Yeah.
And did she then send you some new pictures?
The pictures that she sent showed her as being actually pretty athletic. You know, they were
Pretty athletic?
Yeah, they were from her high school years when she was athletic, and she said that she used to like run track a lot and walk out and all this other stuff. And it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. But,
keep your voice up. Keep speaking into the microphone.
And so, if you guys wonder why I'm not looking at you, it's because I'm looking at this to keep my mind on it. Sorry, don't forget it. So, I had so I bought her a camera, sent it to her, and she sent pictures that were basically she would push her stuff up in, so face shots, right? And
And so in the meantime, you're living with the Air Force officer, former Air Force officer?
Yeah.
You're working at Target?
Yeah.
How are you getting back and forth to work?
I have a bike. At this point, after moving in there, I actually got a bike. And in fact, before moving in there, I got a bike, learned how to ride a bike. And
you get yourself the bike?
Actually, the people at Target gave me a bike because up till then I was just walking.
You were walking?
Yeah.
How far?
Well, a couple miles.
And you never at that point thought, hey, I could get a car and drive this?
No.
Okay, so they got you a bike and you're biking to work?
Yeah.
And what are you doing? Are you socializing with the gentleman you lived with? What was his name?
Brian.
Brian?
Yeah.
You're socializing with him or his roommates or anything else?
Not really.
What were you doing with your free time?
I was mostly online.
Mostly online?
Yeah.
And you're talking to Amber?
And my other friends, yeah. Writing and stuff, yeah.
Okay, and then you meet Michelle?
Yeah.
She sends you pictures?
Yeah.
How long did you know her before you decided to move out here?
I think about 6 months.
Okay, and now, I mean, with all due respect, your track record with meeting girls online and having it work out is lousy, right?
No, sometimes it worked out great, and I didn't meet them.
Well, unfortunately,
Actually,
you met Michelle.
One of my leads, I had told him that I was going to be doing this, and he's like, are you sure this is a good idea?
One of your leads, one of the supervisors at Target?
Yeah. So, no, I'm not. He's like, he was concerned. I'm like, no, I'm not worried about it. It's okay. Yeah.
So you decided to move out here.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do with all your stuff?
I packed all my stuff up and sent it through the mail because she's like, well, my mom works at the post office. It's no big deal. So
for her mom to pick up all your stuff?
Pick all that stuff up and just bring it back and just put it in a closet or whatever. So that's what we did.
But I mean, you had moved across the country from Arizona and got stood up. Yeah. You went to Nacogdoches, Louisiana, however you pronounce it. My apologies to the good people of Louisiana. And you got tossed out after 3 days. And then you went to Philly and you got stood up. And now you mailed all your stuff to Washington State?
Seemed a good idea at the time.
Okay. And what happened when you got out? How'd you get out here?
I flew out here, actually. The plane got kind of sidetracked, so I ended up taking an extra day. But I eventually got out here.
Okay. And what happened when you got here and you met Michelle?
Actually, I came out here on, I think, April 2nd. So...
How about that?
Yeah. So...
April 2nd, 2002?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
So
you got out here, and what did you think when you met Michelle? Everybody's already seen my unfortunate and impolite remarks about that, and I apologize, but I own them. But what did you think?
My first thought was that, now keep in mind, before I had come out here, she had described herself as being very athletic, very muscular, almost like Linda Hamilton in Terminator 2.
Like Linda Hamilton in Terminator 2?
Yeah. If anybody's seen that. If you haven't, she was very muscular but trim, right? in that particular movie, as opposed to like androgynous and muscular, I guess. Anyway, she looked really good.
Okay, and did Michelle look like that when you met her?
Well, no, actually. I had kind of honestly forgotten that what Linda Hamilton had looked like in Terminator 2 because I hadn't seen it in years. So I'm like, is that like really muscular? I don't really know. And she's like, no, it's not too muscular. So I come out here and she had, she shows up about half an hour late and she had like just literally rolled out of bed and thrown on whatever. So keep in mind, in all the pictures that she had sent me prior to this, she had on just really elaborate makeup, right? And this one she didn't even bother with that. This time she didn't bother with that, she just kind of showed up. She wasn't particularly muscular. She was kind of big actually, and I was kind of taken aback and surprised. I didn't say anything, but I was just like, oh. And I guess she saw my reaction and held that against me, but I'm just like, whatever. I came out here, we got in the car, and I'm just like, wow. Whatever. I came out here because I care, because I love her, not because of the size of her, right? So whatever. So. Yeah.
You said you loved her?
Yeah.
You had never met her, though, right?
No.
So how'd you know you loved her?
We emailed and talked.
Talked on the phone?
On the phone.
This was before the days of Skype?
Yeah.
And what did she tell you about her situation, like, as far as before you moved out here? Did she say, hey, I'm dating this guy, Mark Mann, and I'm living with him, or what happened?
Actually, she told me that she was living with, that she had had a roommate who was female, who had recently joined the army, and the roommate's boyfriend was still there, and would be moving out as I was moving in. That would be Mark Mann, and that she hadn't been with anybody in about 6 months, but that she had just gotten an abortion.
Well, but Joe, when did you learn that Mark Mann, in fact, was her boyfriend?
I think the first time I really believed it was when I heard the tape of that phone call, actually. I hadn't heard that he was her boyfriend until somebody had... One of the attorneys had mentioned that... Yeah, Jesus mentioned something that Jesus had meant somebody else.
Joe. Hold on. The short answer, because I asked you when, without the whole deliberative process. One of the attorneys, were you ever represented by an attorney before December 24th, 2007?
Absolutely not. There was ever any reason for me to be represented by an attorney.
So when did...
There was never any reason for me to be represented by an attorney prior to any of this.
Okay, so
Sorry, I need a drink.
You didn't learn that Mark Mann had been her boyfriend until after you had already killed the Andersons and been arrested and sent to jail, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but till that point I thought he was just this creepy guy who would hang out around her, and she would always was like really into her. And
Speak up.
Up until then, I had only known him as this creepy guy who was always hanging around her and always mooning around and just very off-putting. And I'm like, look, can we not have this guy around? You have to hang out with this guy? And she's like, oh, no, it's cool. I never had anything with him. He's just obsessed with me, and, I get stuff from him. It's what she would call, torment. It's what she would call, but the term that she would use is asshole tax. Sorry, but that's the term.
What's the asshole tax?
It's actually from this movie, Fight Club, where somebody's, not a pleasant person to be around, so they have to get you stuff to keep them around.
So that you'll tolerate them being around?
Yeah, basically.
Okay, so that's how she referred to getting things from Mark Mann?
Yeah.
What kind of things would she get from him?
She would go and get movies, and he'd go out over and, like, you know, he would actually buy her meals and bring them to her while she was at walk and whatnot. I'm just like, walk? Yeah, over at Seattle Tower, actually, right? You know, I never liked that, but I'm just like, well, if there was that, then she's like, you trust me, don't you? Yeah, I guess I trust you, but whatever.
So you moved in with her to Kent Terrace Apartments?
Mm-hmm.
In Kent?
Yeah.
How soon after you got here did you start working?
I think it took about a month, actually, because when I came out here, the guy...
Took about a month to work where?
At Target.
Okay, so basically you transferred to Target?
Yes.
Here. Okay. And how close was that to where you were living at Kent Terrace Apartments? Did you have to drive it?
No, it was down the street.
So you could walk?
Yeah.
Okay. And Michelle at the time was working where? Seattle Tower?
Yeah, actually.
That's one of the buildings here in the downtown area?
Yes.
And what was she doing there? Sorry. Neighbors might be dangerous.
You know, she'd actually mentioned that before I'd even come out, that one of the things that she was concerned about was that the neighbors were dangerous, and that she really wanted to go off and have somebody around, not only to help pay the bills, but because the neighbors were dangerous, to help protect them. So even if things don't work out, she would still need a roommate.
I mean, did you ever say, well, hey, I'm not really the guy that gets in fights?
No.
And did you have a gun or anything before you moved out here?
No. In fact, by then, like I said, I pawned my sword and sold all my knives. Well, left all my knives behind.
What kind of knives did you have?
Oh, I used to collect knives. Before I left Arizona to go to North Carolina, I left all my knives behind.
Okay. So...
My grandfather collected swords, so I couldn't afford swords, so I just collected knives.
Okay. So, Mark Mann also mentioned something about it had been something Michelle had, some kind of fantasy of hers to kill her family. When did that first come up, or did it come up with you? Obviously, it must have come up at some point.
Yeah. When I had first met her, one of the reasons that she wanted me to come out here instead of the other way around was because she had her family here, and she was really close to her family, and it's like, great. I'm very glad that you're close to your family. That's fantastic that you're close to your family. I wish I was close with my family, so I moved out here and to help her be close to her family. And
well, but at what point was my question?
At what point? She had always had a problem with her father.
When did she reveal that to you?
I don't remember. I don't recall if she mentioned that after I came out or before I came out.
Okay. So, but what kind of problem? I mean, you know, everybody maybe doesn't get along with a parent perfectly. That's nothing out of the
She
ordinary.
viewed him as being a very abusive, vicious person.
And did you have any independent verification of that?
No, not at the time and not since.
Not at the time and not since?
No.
Okay, so you moved out here to Kent Terrace Apartments. She had mentioned the danger in advance, and then we also know that at some point when you moved out here, you bought a gun.
Yeah.
Tell us about why you bought guns.
I had bought the initial gun, which was the .357, because we were living on a third floor apartment, and we actually had people who were climbing up the balcony of the second floor apartment and like trying to break in. And I'm sitting. And some of them were actually trying to climb up to the third floor apartment as well, which was us, of course. So I'm sitting here and I'm just like, this is not okay, right? And
So let me interrupt you for a second.
Okay.
Somebody's climbing to your third floor balcony?
Yeah.
Like Spider-Man or like an actual real person?
No, just like a regular person.
I mean, did you ever see them on your balcony?
They didn't make it to the balcony, no.
Because you were on the third floor.
Tried. They got up to the second floor and they were trying to get up to the third floor, but
And who were these people?
Just some neighborhood guys.
Kids or adults?
I would say kids, but I don't mean like, you know,
not 4-year-olds.
10-year-olds or 4-year-olds or anything. I mean like 15, 16-year-olds.
Okay, so they're teenagers.
Teenagers, yeah.
And were they rowdy?
Very rowdy. That's why they were climbing up and trying to bash down the door. Not
Bashed
our
down
door.
whose door?
The door downstairs.
But they never came on your balcony.
No.
Did you ever think, I'm taking it you rented, you did not own, correct?
Right.
Ever phone the landlord and say, hey, problem with the neighbors here?
Didn't want to go and draw attention to ourselves. Usually drawing attention to oneself is a way of drawing attention to oneself. Marking yourself the target, right?
Marking yourself with a target by complaining about kids climbing up the balcony?
Yeah.
Did you ever have a conversation with Michelle where it was like, what reasonably can we do about this? Like, oh, I don't know, call the police?
Actually, yeah. And we were concerned that if we did that, that the police would come up and they'd all just, say, okay, it wasn't me, And then they'd all come up and then they'd attack us for doing so.
But, you mentioned this experience with the police when your brother called them when you were 13 or 14 years old. Any other run-ins with the police in your young years?
There was a couple times that I've been pulled over.
Pulled over?
Yeah.
I thought you didn't drive.
On a bike.
Pulled over on a bike. For what?
Looking suspicious.
In Fayetteville?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you get ticketed? Did they
No.
beat you up?
No.
Search you?
They searched.
Why did they pull you over?
Because I looked suspicious.
Did you look like somebody who matched the description of someone who had committed a crime?
That's what he said.
Okay. And did you cooperate?
Yeah, of course.
But he didn't do anything illegal?
No.
Okay, so what's with why not just call the police? Where did you get this idea that it's going to mark you as a target or something?
I don't know. I was just concerned, I guess. I don't know.
Concerned about what?
I don't know. I was just concerned that they wouldn't take us seriously. I guess so. That they'd come over and just kind of poke around and just bail.
And just what?
Come over, poke around and just bail.
And disappear?
Yeah.
Did you? Now you knew that Michelle. She had said some things maybe about her dad, but did she talk to you about her relationship with the rest of her family and her brother? Did she mention that
she got along really well with everybody else? She actually would often go and compare me to Scott. Anyway, where I came up, shortcoming.
I missed most of that joke. Try it again.
It's one of those things where I would often be compared to Scott unfavorably.
You were what?
Compared to Scott unfavorably.
Okay.
Most people would be compared to Scott unfavorably, though. He was a good guy.
Okay. But did you ever meet Scott?
I met Scott, eventually I met Scott.
Okay.
He was concerned that this guy had went and come all the way out and wanted to make sure that she was safe.
So he was keeping his little sister safe?
Yeah.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Now, and you met Scott? Did he seem like a decent guy to you?
Yeah.
All those good things people said the other day, those sound pretty much true to you?
I don't doubt it.
Don't doubt it? Okay.
I don't doubt it.
So why not, if you've got trouble with the neighbor kids and you're concerned about the cops, why not say, maybe we should talk to your family. You got a good family. Say, hey, we're worried about this. Did you ever do that?
Actually, she did that. She did call the family and talk to them about it, and they just didn't seem too concerned about it, I guess. I don't know.
There's a mention in your journal, and I think that it was read into the record at one point, but if not, we could certainly do that, about borrowing a gun. Maybe it was a gun that had belonged to Ryan at one point?
Ryan was, at that time, he had a .45 that he'd given to Scott to hold on to. And so Shell asked him for that, and Scott's like, yeah, Ryan wants that back. So then she talked to Wayne about it, and so Wayne had let us borrow a .22 rifle.
Okay.
So.
But there was never any discussion of, like, what can we do about this situation of people climbing the balcony other than arming ourselves?
Not that I know of, no. I mean, we tried to come up with other things, but that just didn't.
Did you ever talk to anybody at work about it? Hey, we're in a dangerous place?
No. No.
Okay, and was Michelle continuing to work as a security guard this whole time?
She might have moved to a different building by this time. She might have moved to a different building, but I'm not sure. She was still a security guard, yes.
And you never could come up with any other solution other than arming yourselves?
It seems like an obvious suicide now, doesn't it?
Pardon me?
It seems like an obvious suicide now, doesn't it?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
It seems like an obvious oversight now, doesn't it?
After you killed her family, you mean?
Actually, I meant, now that it's pointed out, but yeah. Yeah.
Your Honor, may we break for the day?
Ladies and gentlemen, please leave your notepads and pens there on the chairs. Excuse me, the jury, Kenny will read the motion momentarily. Involves a communication between you and Mr. Conat or anything of the sort that I recall seeing. There is some mention in there of setting up opportunities for people to meet with Mr. Conat, and I think there's a reference to you at break. Sure.
I thought you might have a further thing.
Okay, so for the time being, Mr. O'Toole, just so we're on the same page, the email communications get to Mr. Hamaji and Mr. Presti immediately. When it comes to the blue notes, we'll take another look at that. And frankly, Mr. Hamaji, I don't recall there being any summaries of communications. It was mostly scheduling issues about not being able to reach people and needing to call them back and those kind of things. Okay? All right, let's see. Is there anything else? Yes, there is. I received a brief from the defense entitled Trial Memorandum regarding admissibility and scope of mitigating evidence. I believe it was sent to me on Saturday.
That's correct, Your Honor, and I'm sure that the state hasn't had time to respond yet. I did file the original this morning. I put a copy for the court sitting next to Ms. Hart up there on the pre-reading binder.
Okay.
But probably one out already. The state's been provided with a copy, so I don't think we need to argue that right this moment, but it is something that we want to make sure we
No problem. And just for my own help, counsel, you mentioned Rubin here on page 5. And I don't know who crafted the brief, so if I'm putting you on the spot, I apologize.
a little bit, but let's get it on.
Well, there's mention in here that the Supreme Court has noted with approval the presentation of 58 mitigation witnesses, and then there's the cite to Rube. And for the life of me, I can't find even a brief passing reference to that fact, because that Rube opinion deals with the so-called no sympathy instructions. There was nothing in there that discussed the sufficiency of the defense mitigation witnesses. So if you could find where that comes from, that would be helpful, because I couldn't locate it anywhere. Maybe in the
Ms. Ross crafted this brief, Your Honor, and so I haven't read it, but very quickly.
If it's in one of the earlier Rube opinions, just let me know.
We will find this citation.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. So, folks, anything we need to take up in addition to what we talked about already before we bring the jury in?
I would just note, for the purpose of noting it, that there are some issues with respect to defense discovery. And just to alert the defense, we've talked about
in contact with some of the custodial officers who had indicated to us that they will not have an interview without a deposition. So we need to have a deposition scheduled. That's Friday. We can do that.
So these are simply demanding a deposition in advance of testifying?
That's my understanding.
Yes, essentially, we contacted, I believe, 5 separate officers, 2 transport officers and 2 deck officers,
Okay.
with the hope of actually putting on to testify 1 transport officer and 2 deck officers. And we just said we wanted to talk to you for probably only about 10 or 15 minutes to find out what you had to say. They have all indicated, well, the ones that have responded have indicated that they do not want to voluntarily cooperate. They would just like a court order. And the offer that we made to them was when we have this informational interview, the prosecutor can be present, and Ms. Balin, the jail's attorney can be present. If they want it to be official, I guess we'll file a short motion and just explain that we need to find out what information they have before we just blindly put them on the witness stand.
All right.
So we'll file something short on that and obviously work with the state to when it's scheduled.
So the main thing is Ms. Bailey's on board and knows exactly what's going on.
Yes, she had indicated that I should contact various personnel in the DAJD system to set this up. And I have done that, and like I said, the officers who have responded have said they don't want to cooperate voluntarily, so we just need approval.
All right, fair enough. Thank you. Mr. O'Toole?
And may I ask just for a point of clarification whether the defense is seeking a order directing us a deposition be taken, or is this simply a court order directing that an interview be taken? Is that a simple idea? I don't know what the request has been made.
Sounds like a deposition, but
They said they wanted a deposition. As I explained to one of the officers when I was meeting with Mr. McEnroe on Friday, from a practical standpoint, it's the same. I guess we bring a court reporter to do a deposition. But we had assumed that any interview would be recorded anyway. Right? So, I mean, there's very little difference except the involvement of more bells and whistles and personnel.
well, it's consistent with the court rules.
Good. So
It authorizes the deposition, so I guess that's what they're demanding.
if they want that, it's certainly their right to ask for it. So.
Okay, so let me know how that plays out, and if you need an order, we'll do that.
Right. Put something together in writing.
Great, thank you. So anything else? And I assume we're picking up with Mr. McEnroe again, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, anything else before we bring the jury in, folks?
Not from the state.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Amaji, Mr. Trustee? Okay. All right, thank you. So Ken, if you'd invite the jury in. Mr. McEnroe, if I could invite you back up to the stand, sir.